In 1979, the world watched as a revolution in Iran overthrew a king, humiliated a superpower, and reshaped the Middle East. But this moment didn't begin with religion. It began with oil and a British plan that went too far.
انشاءالله به توفیق الهی دشمن رو به زانو در خواهیم آورد.
Let's go back to 1953. Iran has a leader. His name is Mohammad Mossadegh. He was elected fairly, democratically, and he had one big idea. Iran's oil should belong to Iran. There was one problem. At the time, a British company controlled all of Iran's oil, taking most of the money, leaving Iran with almost nothing. So Mossadegh said, "No more. We're taking our oil back." Britain was furious, so they called America, and America sent its spies in, planned a coup, paid people to cause chaos in the streets, created fake protests, made it look like Mossadegh was losing control, and then removed him from power. A man that millions of Iranians had voted for, gone, removed by a foreign country because that foreign country wanted the oil. This actually happened. America has admitted it. And then America installed their own guy, the Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. He ruled Iran like a king, threw people in prison, tortured people who disagreed with him, banned political parties, controlled everything. And America supported him completely, sold him weapons, called him an ally, invited him to the White House because he kept the oil flowing and he kept Iran away from Russia. That's all America needed. Now imagine you're Iranian. Your country had a real leader, someone you chose. America removed him, replaced him with a dictator. For 26 years, that dictator controls your life. 1979, the Iranian people had enough. They rose up, kicked the Shah out, started a revolution, and a new leader came to power, Ayatollah Khomeini. He had one simple message for his people. America did this to us. America took our democracy. America backed our dictator. America is not our friend. America is our enemy. And here's the crazy part. Most Americans have no idea why Iranians are angry. They just see angry Iranians burning American flags and think, why do they hate us? Why do they hate us?
I was the first weapons inspector on the ground in the Soviet Union implementing the Intermediate Nuclear Forces Treaty.
Were we able to find that one for Witkoff I was looking for a second ago?
Just to give you a little bit of a taste for how these three days of negotiations went, three separate times. Jared and I opened up with the Iranian negotiators telling us they had the inalienable right to enrich all their nuclear fuel that they possessed. That's how they opened up. We, of course, responded that the president feels we have the inalienable right to stop you dead in your tracks. They then went on to say that beyond the inalienable right to enrich, that was going to be their starting point. And Jared and I just sort of looked at ourselves flummoxed and said, well, we're really in for it now.
The reason why I played that soundbite there is because while history doesn't repeat, it rhymes, as they say. And to me, when I hear him say this, and then you hear Foreign Minister Arakchi, who was on the other side of that table during that, and when you hear the Omani foreign minister characterize what they view that last 6 hour meeting, where he said they were flummoxed, the other side came out saying, well, what you told us, we thought we had the outlines of a deal, that we would have avoided war altogether. As someone who's been in this similar situation here, and as an intelligence analyst, what can you say about those two contrasting visions?
Well, first of all, we have to understand that, when Donald Trump sent Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff to Oman to negotiate, he sent his two most highly qualified people. I mean, Jared has his PhD in nuclear physics, and wait a minute, he doesn't. He's a corrupt real estate broker. And Steve Witkoff doesn't know anything about nuclear weapons or nuclear enrichment either. He's a corrupt real estate broker. and they work for a corrupt real estate broker. I mean, we're already behind the curve here when we have these two people representing, because they have no idea what they're talking about. When the Iranians said they have an inalienable right to enrich, it's Article 4 of the Nuclear Nonproliferation Treaty, which, because it hasn't been walked away yet by this administration, continues to be the supreme law of the land. I remind people that constitutionally, when we have a treaty that's been signed by the president, ratified by the Senate, it is the supreme law of the land. The supremacy clause of the Constitution. For all you people out there that say you're proud Americans and you're MAGA and all this, we are a constitutional republic where the Constitution is the only thing that matters. And so right off the bat, these negotiators are showing their absolute ignorance. The president has no inherent right to do anything except what the Constitution allows him to do. He doesn't get to go around and say, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this. And so we went in there not being honest about what our intent was. We brought people whose job wasn't to succeed, but to fail. Now, the Iranians and the Omanis, on their hand, were looking to succeed. Let's remember what they started off with. We have 450 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium hexafluoride. That's what they said. Now, if I were Kushner and Witkoff, I would have looked at it and go, whew, okay, they've admitted to having it. So now what we need to do is get it. We need to get the Iranians to turn this over to us. We need to get this diluted down so that we eliminate the immediate threat of nuclear weapons, which is what the president told us publicly what he wants to do. I would have been relieved at that point in time. I would have said, we have a chance now. We have a chance. And again, that's what the Iranians and the Omanis did. They agreed to the procedures in which this 450 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium, which is only 2 cycles of enrichment through 164 centrifuge IR8, IR9 cascade, which the Iranians have, to becoming 92%, which is what makes fissile material for nuclear weapons. So here was our chance to actually get rid of this stuff, to do what the president said he wanted to do, to deny Iran a pathway to a nuclear bomb verifiably, because the other thing the Iranians agreed to at the time wasn't just the return of IAEA inspectors, international inspectors, but they would be accompanied by American inspectors. For the first time in the inspection history of the Iranian nuclear program, American inspectors would be allowed on the ground to verify what the Iranians said. This is the biggest victory in arms control one could imagine if this president was serious about arms control. But the fact is, the day he initiated these negotiations was the day after he agreed upon the date to attack Iran with Benjamin Netanyahu when he visited us. They had already made the decision. We lied. And again, I just want to remind people that these details are important. Perfidy is a war crime. Okay, perfidy, that hiding behind a flag of truce, is a war crime. Not only have we carried out an illegal war of aggression, and again, Justice Jackson, who is the prosecutor at Nuremberg, has said that he's the guy who prosecuted the German war criminals, hung several of them. The greatest war crime is the crime of an illegal war of aggression, because from that, all other crimes emanate. The United States has just committed an illegal war of aggression, a surprise attack. How many people out there on December 7th hang your head and say a prayer for those who perished in Pearl Harbor when the Imperial Japanese fleet carried out a surprise attack, a day that will live in infamy, President Roosevelt said, and a day that should live in infamy? Well, we just trumped that, because what we did is, under the flag of truce, carried out a surprise attack against Iran that assassinated Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader. Now, for the people out there who aren't familiar, he is Iran is an Islamic republic. The supreme leader is the head jurisprudent. They call it the Vilayat Faqih. He's the head jurisprudent of the faith. He is the equivalent to Twelver Shia, which is a faction of the Shia faith, the major faction in Iran, Iraq, and elsewhere, of the Pope for the Catholic Church. So this is like us carrying out a surprise attack against the Vatican to kill the Pope. This is the man who issued a fatwa. Remember, President Trump says he doesn't want a nuclear bomb. This is the man who issued the fatwa, which has been recognized not only by Barack Obama when he signed the JCPOA, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, back in 2015, where he recognized that we recognize Iran has a religious fatwa or edict that prohibits them from developing nuclear weapons, and we take this seriously. Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence for Donald Trump, made the same statement before Congress, and she mentioned the fatwa. She said, there's a fatwa. We have seen no political move by the Iranians to reverse this fatwa. Therefore, there's no evidence of them pursuing a nuclear weapon. The guy who issued the fatwa in 2003 and kept it relevant, we murdered, we killed. And now they replaced him with somebody who says, maybe that fatwa is not all it was. And guess what the Iranians have today? 450 kilograms of uranium hexafluoride enriched to 60% that they can, within a matter of 2 weeks, turn into uranium metal rich to 90%, which can be used to produce 5 to 10, 15 to 20 kiloton nuclear bombs, the size of those we dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, that can be put into warheads mounted on the Fatah 4 missile, which is now operational, striking Israel as we speak. The weapon we said we don't want them to have, we just opened the pathway for them to have. People around him were saying, the Israelis and the Americans are getting ready to attack us. This will be a war of existential survival for Iran. We need nuclear weapons to deter them. And Ali Khamenei said, no, under no circumstances. I met with the Iranian president in September in New York City, and I asked him that question. I said, is your ballistic missile deterrence capable of actually preventing these nations from attacking, or do you need to have a nuclear weapon? He said, we don't want a nuclear weapon. We believe our missiles are enough. But moreover, he said, we're prohibited from even thinking about it because of this fatwa, Ali Khamenei. But Khamenei was under a lot of pressure. And what happened is certain of the Ayatollahs did get him to admit that if the Islamic Republic of Iran is under existential threat from powers who possess nuclear weapons, then the fatwa can be done and it will be religiously acceptable to produce nuclear weapons as a way of preserving the Islamic Republic in the face of this nuclear threat. Today, we have nuclear-armed Israel and nuclear-armed the United States attacking Iran with existential desires. So we've just literally created justification. If the Iranians couldn't have asked for a bigger favor from us, because if there was people in Iran that wanted a nuclear weapon, what was preventing them was a fatwa issued by the supreme leader. We killed the supreme leader. And the fatwa, there were conditions set where it could be overcome, and we created those conditions. And now we've empowered them. Moreover, we've proven that there is no diplomatic path out of this, because regardless of what Iran may want to do, the United States and Israel can never again be trusted, ever, across the board. And so this is like us carrying out a surprise attack against the Vatican to kill the Pope. This is like the Archbishop of Canterbury for the British. We just killed him. It's like Kirill, the head of the Orthodox Church for the Russians. We just killed him. We killed a major religious figure that resonates deeply with these people because they are, after all, the Islamic Republic. This is the man who issued a fatwa. Remember, President Trump says he doesn't want a nuclear bomb. This is the man who issued the fatwa, which has been recognized not only by Barack Obama when he signed the JCPOA, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action back in 2015, where he recognized that we recognize Iran has a religious fatwa or edict that prohibits them from developing nuclear weapons, and we take this seriously. Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of National Intelligence for Donald Trump, made the same statement before Congress, and she mentioned the fatwa. She said there's a fatwa. We have seen no political...
Start just with the overview. What have you learned since this war began?
Well, Tucker, unfortunately, and I'm very sad to say this, is that our very sovereignty is in question right now. The Secretary of State made perhaps one of the most remarkable statements of my entire life and perhaps in modern history when he declared unequivocally that we are involved in this war as a result of the either inability or the adherence to an Israeli strike that was going to happen on Tehran. This reveals a lot of different things about our government, our structure. We were either unable to exert pressure on Israel to avoid such a war, we either acquiesced to it, and both are terrifying in their result because we are, of course, the global superpower, and Israel is a client state. I've also learned, very unfortunately, having spent my entire career trying to repudiate the lessons of the Iraq War, of Syria, and of Libya, of an overwhelming propaganda effort on both sides, both parties, the mainstream media, but still, unfortunately, very alive and well, it seems, in the Republican Party and in the White House, cheering on regime change, demands of unconditional surrender made to the Iranians. Just this morning, the endorsement of a Kurdish civil war campaign. It really does feel as if things are accelerating, even with the perspectives in modern history of literally 5, 10, even 15 years ago, to learn that these are exactly the moves that we should not be making. And so I'm really terrified right now to be saying that our sovereignty itself remains in question at the behest here of Israel, our very own government, which seems complicit and is, of course, involved in these very strikes. And then watching the way that this is all going, I do not see a single way that this will make the life of any individual American better.
Israel seeks peace.
It wants a piece of Gaza, a piece of Syria, a piece of Lebanon. You get the point.
God gave us, Israel, all of it.
And under the cover of its endless conflicts, Israel is quietly redrawing the map of the Middle East. It's part of a plan called Greater Israel.
Greater Israel.
Greater Israel.
Greater Israel.
And it's basically Zionism's wet dream coming to fruition in front of our eyes. And it has massive geopolitical implications that could last decades into the future. Let's start with Gaza. You may have heard of this thing called the Yellow Line. It's the temporary border that Israeli troops were supposed to pull back to during the ceasefire. The Yellow Line cuts Gaza in half, basically right down the middle, and effectively gives the Israeli military full control over 50% of the Gaza Strip. The line was supposed to be temporary, but here's the thing, the Yellow Line is not static. Israel keeps pushing it further and further into Gaza, stealing more land and displacing more Palestinians. And if Palestinians even get close to that line or think about crossing it, they get shot at and even killed.
2 of those killed were 11-year-old Fadi Abu-Asi and his brother, 8-year-old Gomer.
But in reality, Israel is enforcing it as a hard border and turning this into everyone's worst fears, a full reoccupation of the Gaza Strip.
The Jew people should live in Gaza. The Gaza Strip was always part of Israel.
And the Israeli military is preparing the groundwork for that, conducting massive demolitions on the Israeli side of the Yellow Line and basically razing everything to the ground.
On the ground, private Israeli contractors have been working for months to erase Gaza.
And they're being open about their future plans for that area. And the genocide in Gaza has led to major territorial gains for Israel. But there's also Syria and Lebanon. After the Assad regime fell in Syria, Israel didn't skip a beat to invade the country. Israel took advantage of the power vacuum created by the fall of Bashar al-Assad to expand its borders, occupying parts of southern Syria, getting as close as almost 20 kilometers away from Damascus.
Syrians received treatment at a hospital in Damascus on Friday, after an Israeli raid in the southern village of Beit Jin.
And in Lebanon, Israel is also refusing to leave lands that it occupied in the south of the country during its conflict with Hezbollah over the past 2 years.
In Lebanon, Israel has pushed Hezbollah forces north of the Litani River and continues to prevent residents from returning to 60 villages in the area,
leading many to fear another long-term occupation of southern Lebanon, something that some Israeli officials are openly advocating for. In all of these places, over all of these years, the playbook is the same. Israel annexes land and creates buffer zones that are supposed to be temporary. Yet sooner or later, they create facts on the ground, from military outposts to settlements, paving the way for it to eventually expand its borders. So what do we make of all of this? I mean, we know that Israel wants all of Palestine, but why Syria and Lebanon? Well, that all connects back to the thing we mentioned called Greater Israel. Greater Israel refers to territories that Zionist leaders considered part of the biblical or historic lands of Israel, land they hoped would one day become a part of Israel itself. It's part of the belief that God promised the Jewish people land all the way from the Euphrates to the Nile, a sacred racial religious right issued by divine decree to the chosen ones, and only to them.
This is the promise of God to the patriarchs of the Jewish nation.
Today, it's used to describe an Israel that's continually expanding, acquiring more and more land, not by accident, but by design. Since Israel is the only country in the world that has no defined borders. And as we speak, we are witnessing the attempt at the realization of Greater Israel right before our eyes. Some may chalk it up to a religious fantasy, but at its core, it's a classic settler colonial expansion, swallowing up more and more land under the cover of constant war. And from Netanyahu's speeches to maps on podiums and even patches being worn by Israeli soldiers in Gaza, the
Greater Israel Plan, one of expansionism and regional dominance, is a goal that Israel is pursuing in plain sight.
I'm Yosemite Sam! Yosemite Sam! Yosemite Sam! I'm Yosemite Sam! Yosemite Sam! Yosemite Sam! I'm Yosemite Sam! Yosemite Sam! Yosemite Sam!
Donald Trump, when he announced this this operation to the American people, said that basically our pummeling of Iran was designed to terminate the regime, decapitate the regime, suppress the regime, and create the opportunity for the Iranian people to rise up and take matters into their own hands, Today, the Iranian people are rising up and taking matters into their own hands. The streets are filled, not with crowds shouting death to Khamenei, but crowds extolling the newest martyr, a man who gave his life in the service of his country, in service of his faith.
So is Donald Trump a fool or a knave?
I prefer to use the term developed by the American punk rock group Green Day. He's an idiot. He's an American idiot, a man who makes no effort to learn anything about what he's about to do. You know, he is a man who postures as an American patriot, but he's an Israeli stooge. This is a man who has been briefed by his intelligence services that there is no nuclear weapons program in Iran. This is a man who is briefed by his generals and admirals that we lack the ability to finish the mission he wants us to accomplish. And this is a man who listened to Benjamin Netanyahu and launched this war of aggression, this illegal war of aggression that has as an enhancement, if we ever bring him to trial, the fact that it was done under perfidy, meaning once again the United States lied to Iran and the world, leading people to believe that there was a potential of a negotiated settlement, one where Iran actually has negotiated a deal which, had it been manifested, would have been the deal Donald Trump claimed he was looking for, the best deal in the world, a deal that removed sunset clauses, removed any possibility of Iran ever expanding its program, a deal that forever ended any speculation about Iran's intent regarding nuclear weapons. This was the deal of a lifetime. But Donald Trump wasn't interested in a deal. He and Benjamin Netanyahu had already picked the timing of this attack prior to the negotiations even beginning. Perfidy. That is what Donald Trump has committed, in addition to carrying out this war of choice, this illegal war of aggression that will forever cement him, and tragically, and I say that with anger in my voice, my country as a nation that will go down in the pages of history alongside Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan as criminal nations that have carried out horrific wars of aggression.
Donald Trump.